art.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Painting with Connor. Today we're going to be painting a beautiful winter landscape. So roll up your sweater sleeves, get cozy, grab a little sip of coffee, and we'll hop right in. So we're going to be using 5 colors today, and I'm going to run those colors across the bottom of your screen there, but we're going to be using white, phthalo blue, aqua green, cadmium yellow, and Mars black. I'm going to be using 3 tools today. The first 2, you've probably seen an awful lot if you've been watching me, and that is our 1-inch flat brush for all our large areas of color, and our 12 flat for all those details. But today, we're going to be getting a little bit spicy, and we're bringing back the 1-inch palette knife. This is our painter's knife. We're going to be using that for all of our beautiful mountains. So strap in. Let's get crazy. I'm going to be starting with the sky today. I always like to start with what's furthest back and slowly but surely move my way forward. So we're going to be starting with white, my 1-inch flat, and a touch of yellow. Get a touch of yellow in there. And we're going to find our horizon line here today. White, touch of yellow. You can see there's not too much yellow in there. Just a little bit. We want a little bit of a golden light coming from behind our mountains today. So find about the halfway point here. And just draw right across. Now you don't have to worry about this line very much because you won't even see it at the end of your painting there today. White and yellow. And just paint your way up your sky there. Now if you're ever having trouble with your paint really getting into the texture of your canvas, sometimes, if you're careful, you can toss the tiniest little bit of water in your paint. Just a tiny bit though. Don't get crazy on me. Don't get too crazy. Anytime you get to the edge of your canvas, make sure you bring that paint all the way around those side edges. When you hang this painting up above your big old mantelpiece and your friends come over for that dinner party you've been planning, it'll be hard to convince them you spend $200 on this painting if you don't paint those edges. Make sure you paint them up. This is just white and yellow. As I'm moving up, I'm going to add a little bit more white. Let's get in there. Add a little bit more white. If you don't normally paint, you might not know your primary colors, but the primary colors of paint typically, now it's a complicated conversation the more you get into it, but typically it's blue, yellow, and red. Today we've just got blue, aqua green, and cadmium yellow, but I want to prevent too much green appearing in my sky, so I got a little yellow along that horizon line, and as I'm painting upwards, I'm going to toss more and more white. I've got about 2 to 3 inches up there. I'm going to go ahead and wash out my brush. Now I've got a jar here with a screen in the bottom. You dunk your brush in there, swirl it around, and you should see your paint water change color. That's a good thing, because that means the paint is leaving the brush and going right into your cup there. Then make sure you dry that brush off. I've got a little towel over here. So I'm washing out my brush so I don't mix too much blue and yellow. That makes green. So I've got this creamy color up here. I'm going to go right into just white and bring it in right above that just white paint. This is giving me a buffer zone. Got to get yourself a little buffer zone in there to prevent too much mixage between your blue and your yellow. Get yourself a buffer zone there. Now this blue, this phthalo blue we got here today, woo, this stuff is strong. Be careful. You don't need very much. So I'm tossing plenty of white up there. Now when I add phthalo blue into a sky like this, I personally like to start at the top. That's to help prevent the blue from just taking over the whole sky, because that blue will bully you around if you let it. So I'm going to get a little bit of blue. Again, I washed all that yellow out. Now I just have a bit of white in my brush. And now, plenty of blue. I'm going to start right here at the top of my canvas now. Again, you can sometimes see these little white dots showing through your paint. That just means either you don't have enough paint, or you might try adding a touch of water. The reason for this is because those little dots there, working around the top of my canvas now, don't forget that edge. Those little dots there, those are air bubbles forming in between your paint and that canvas. So you either got to give it a little extra scrub, or add a little water, or add a little paint to get those filled in, because we want this whole canvas to be covered up by the time we're done. There we go. That's just white and phthalo blue. You can see I didn't use much phthalo blue there, and that stuff is strong. There we go. As I'm running out of paint, I'm not going to get any more blue. You don't need any more. Just get white paint. Ooh, that stuff is strong. Some more white paint. There we go. And soften that blue till we end up with just a light blue. I'm blending the blue that's in my brush with white paint and mixing it on my canvas there. That's how I'm getting this color. And as I'm getting close to that yellow, I'm not getting worried yet, but as you get close, don't bring that blue into the yellow, because then you'll end up with a tornado sky. Now if you want that today, that's totally fine. You make it happen, but make sure it's on purpose. Make sure it's on purpose. Get a little touch of water there. Just working my whole sky together. That'll about do it. That'll about do it. Maybe extra scrub over here on this side. Now, if you're like me and you've been playing around with adding this water into your paint, and you've been mixing water and paint on your palette, be careful, because it might just roll right off your palette, which mine is about to do. Ooh, that's exciting. You're not making art if you're not getting messy. There we go. All right, and that's pretty much what you're looking for your sky. So go ahead and wash out your brush. Now, if you don't have a jar with a screen in the bottom, you know what I normally do is I take a cup and I just knock the brush on the bottom of the cup. So you don't necessarily need a jar like this, but it sure does help. It sure does help. I just got it from my local craft store. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reflect that sky right into the bottom of my canvas, painting with the exact same colors, starting with white and a touch of yellow. White and a touch of yellow. There we go. And I'm going to start right there at that horizon line again. And just streaking back and forth. All my brush strokes have been horizontal so far, or side to side. Streak it back and forth. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is just in case later on we want to have a little water. So I'm reflecting my sky all over the bottom of my canvas here, so that when I decide to have a little bit of water, because I will have some, I'm playing coy like I'm not going to do it. I'm going to add some water. I am going to do it. I'm just reflecting this color down there. So later on, when I get around to adding that water, all I got to do is leave some areas blank, add a couple ripples, and we've already got some water happening. So I just had that yellow and white back and forth, just like with the sky. Add an extra white as I go down. As I get to the middle of where my water is going to be, I add tons of white. There we go. Wash out your brush. Now it is much more acceptable to have green in your water, but I'm going to still try my best to just have that blue and yellow. I love that look in skies when you just have blue and yellow. Going back into just white now, just white, adding our buffer zone. And then, since I still got this mess that I made before, I'm going to use that mess in that blue. starting from the bottom of the canvas, then blending our way upwards. We started on the top, blended down with the blue. Now we're starting on the bottom, and we're blending up instead. Again, that helps that blue not take everything over. Again, I'm using blue and white. Blue and white. Maybe another touch of water there. Careful not to make too much of a mess. I didn't put my tarp down today, so I'm really going to have to be careful not to spill any paint in my carpet today. It may happen, but I'm going to try not to. I'm going to put that out there. No paint in the carpet today, Connor. It wouldn't be the first time, and it probably wouldn't be the last. But I'm going to try my best. There we go. And I don't want to overcomplicate this today, so that's pretty much what I'm looking for. There we go. Keeping it simple today. Keeping it simple. Getting straight to the point. What's the point of our painting today? What's the point? The point is some big old icy mountains. So the first thing I'm going to do for the mountains is pop out my painter's knife. And I'm going to be mixing up a lovely color here today. I'm going to scoop some blue. There we go. And some of this aqua green. There we go. Ooh, that's what I'm looking for. Oh, that's fun. Phthalo blue. That's one of those little drops trying to run away on me. Maybe I'll scoop them into my mountain. Get up in there. Get up in there. There we go. Just trying to contain my mess. Now you don't want to overmix this. Blue and aqua green. Pull it out flat. Cut into it. You end up with a nice little roll of paint there. Then I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make myself a big mountain right about here where my sky is turning blue. Oh yeah, just get in there. Cut into that paint, pull it in there. Mountains are basically triangles, so start with a triangle. Start with a triangle. That's all I'm doing. Start with a nice triangle there. Pull that paint out. But a triangle, just having it as a triangle is a little bit boring. I like to be a little bit more exciting than that. So we got to add some lumps and bumps here today. That's the name of the game when it comes to painting nature, lumps and bumps. So make sure you got some, maybe there's an extra little peak there. There it is. Pop them in there. Just make it up. Just make it up. That's what I'm doing. Just make it up as you go. Scoop some more paint. Maybe there's a second peak over here. Boom. See how I'm using the corners of my knife to create those peaks? Makes it easier on me. I'm really moving the knife around. I don't just hold it in one position the whole time. Get myself some more of that green. There we go. Boom. Got myself 2 peaks so far. 2 big old mountains there. Then I'm going to get some smaller mountains on the side. Maybe they kind of tumble down. Maybe there's a shorter one. There we go. Right over there. There he is. You'll notice all of this is floating in the sky currently. I told you weren't going to see that horizon line. I told you. Did you believe me? Guess we'll find out. We'll find out if you trusted me. There we go. Tumble that mountain down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my big old brush. First I'm going to wipe off my palette knife though. Then I'm going to take my big old brush back again. And I'm going to use him to blend this paint down because the paint's still wet. Just blend it down. Now the important thing here is go with the flow of whatever it is you're painting. Today we're painting a mountain. So flow down the mountain. Think about all those rocks flowing down your mountain today. And then I'm just going to softly blend this out. And I'm going to add a little bit, grab my palette, add a little bit of white to my brush and blend it into the bottom. We want there to be a little mist. Just adding white at the bottom. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. Since that paint's still wet, you just blend that white right into it. Flicking my brush back and forth. There we go, and you end up with some nice soft mist going on there. We'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. That'll get us where we're going for today, though. For now. Because we got to put some snow on our mountain. And we're going to be using the palette knife again. Make sure you never just leave paint drying in your brush. That'll gunk it all the way up. That'll be very hard to paint. So I always make sure to wash out my brush after I use it there. Alright. Now we got to get a snow color. That might be white. Get a little white. Find a little spot. Pull it out. Make sure you got a nice roll of paint there. See how much paint is on my knife there? You got to get a good amount on there. But mainly it's that roll on the end. Then we're going to come up here. I line the edge of my I almost said brush. My knife up to the edge of my mountain. And we get to make some decisions up here. Barely touch that mountain. Touch that paint. Barely touch that mountain. Let the paint break as you go down. Barely touch. See how a little bit of it mixes? That's what we want. Pulling that mountain right in front of the other ones. Cut across. Get a little bit more paint. You can also add another peak just by pulling that white back in. There we go. Now we got the third dimension happening today. That's what we want. We like to be in the third dimension here. Maybe in the fourth if we're lucky. I'm going to add some on the next mountain. Touch that paint. Pull it down. Just let it glide, barely touching. Get a little bit more of that white paint. Touch it, pull it, touch it, pull it, barely touching. That's going to be your key. If you press down, you'll end up with a smooth, flat mountain. The key here is to barely touch, barely touch. Just glide across that canvas. Just glide. We'll leave that guy in the background, maybe. That guy's farther back. And you can also use, see how there's two edges of your knife there? You can always use that shorter edge. Get a little snow on that edge. Maybe a little less. There we go. Get a little tiny peak there. Use that for the little ones. Use that for the little ones. There we go. Now we've got some wonderful snow happening. All right. There we go. Boy, I could paint mountains all day. Just have fun smearing that paint around up there. There we go. All right. Go ahead and wipe off your palette knife there. Then we can get ourselves a little bit of a shadow color. We're going to add a little shadow on the back. I'm going to take some of that blue. Running out of spots on my palette here. Take some blue, take a little bit of black. That's nice and dark. Maybe a little more blue. There we go. Get some paint on your knife there. Now the shadow goes right on the other side of the highlight. Sometimes, I used to think, I shouldn't say sometimes, I used to think that the shadow would go on the furthest edge, right? But the shadow actually goes right next to the snow. The darkest area is actually going to be in the middle. That's because this is where the light is hitting on the right side of your mountain. The left side is actually getting what's called bounce light, because light refracts all over the place, and there's a soft light hitting that backside, but the shadowiest part is going to be right here in the middle. Darken it up. There we go. And you can always use that short edge. There we go. Darken it up a little bit more. There we go. And that's what we're looking for. Get ourselves a little more contrast back there. And we don't have to do this to every single mountain. These are the mountains that are the most visible. If you don't add a shadow like this on a mountain, there's nothing wrong with it. All it does is it gives the impression of mist, more mist happening, more light refracting through water particles and snow particles and stuff like that. So you don't have to do this to every single peak you've got. In fact, I wouldn't. There we go. Just adding some dark sides to our mountain. Without shadow, there is no form. Gotta have the shadows. It's just like in life. If all your times are good, you don't know how good you got it. Gotta have a little darkness in there. You can even add a little darkness on your light side. There's no rules. There's no rules. Break all the rules. Break them all. Now there are a few rules. There are a few rules. But you can get a little messy. That's all I mean. You can be a little messy. There we go. Now before I spend all day painting my mountain, I'll probably finish that up. Feeling pretty good about that. Next, I'm going to be adding some far off trees here today. So some misty far off trees. So I'm going to be using my 1-inch brush. I do have a 2-inch. My 1-inch brush there. And I'm going to go into that same color that I was using for the mountains, which is that greenish, bluish color. Greenish, bluish color. And this time, toss a little white in. Lighten it up a little. Maybe a little more. So that's green, blue, and white. And you're going to hold your brush vertically like this. I'm going to add some far off misty trees. I'm going to start high on the sides. Tapping my way down. I need a little bit more blue in there. There we go. Just to make sure it stands out. There we go. Just pulling downward. See how I'm making sure the top edge is varied. Don't make it all the same. Don't make little fence posts like if you do it like this. It won't look realistic at all, right? Let it be a little messy. Nature's always a little bit messy. Nature's always a little messy. Come down the other side, starting above your mountain. There we go. I'm almost dabbing the brush, tapping, dabbing. Just keeping it loose. These are real far away. And letting them flow downwards towards the center. Now I'm doing this pretty quick because I want to make sure these stay wet. Don't let them dry out. Don't let them dry out. Because next, what I need to do without washing my brush, I'm going to get tons more white and swoop. Cut off their feet. No one ever told you that painting was peaceful. Cut their feet right off. Create a nice snowy slope there. And on the other side as well. There they are. A nice little snowy slope there. That's just white paint. I just didn't wash out my brush. And if you make one of the hills a little bit brighter, you can make it look like it's coming down in front. There we go. It's all about the contrast today. Smear these out. Make one of them look a little brighter. Let's get it in there. There it is. That one's a little brighter. There we go. I like to keep my snow a little off-white because if it was just bright white, then it will all look the same. So make sure it's a little off-white. That way we can get some dimension going on. Get some dimension happening. There we go. Now at this point, this is about where I want my little pond to live. So I'm going to get myself a little more white. We're using a lot of white today. Oh yeah. Getting crazy. A little more white. And we're going to find the edge of our pond. I'm going to take this edge, swoop it around. Let's give ourselves a little tiny pond down here. See how that reflection we made earlier, now it's paying off. A little white, swoop it around this side. See there that because I haven't washed out my brush this whole time, I'm ending up with all these happy little accidents happening up there. Just smearing these colors. As long as you're painting with the flow of whatever it is you're painting, that's going to take you halfway there. See how I'm flowing with the snow? There we go. We can even give ourselves a little snowdrift. Oh, right there. There he is. See how having that highlight right there, boom, it pushes those bits back. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm looking for. Now we'll come back to the snow in a second. But I've got to get a couple little trees in there. I want to fix up some of those little fuzzy trees right in the center with my little brush. See, I added a little white there. But what I really want to do is use my little brush for this. And this is going to be our warm-up for our trees in the future that we're about to do. Get some white on that little brush. Hold your brush horizontally. Use just the corner of your brush. Tap back and forth. And we can end up with some little frosty bits happening back there. Don't do this to every little fluff you got. Just to a few of them. And I'm going back and forth in a little zigzag there. On top of some of the shadow color that I've already laid in. The key to a Christmas tree, these are evergreens that I'm doing here today. The key to these is that the top's got to be small. So as long as you make sure you got a little small tip on them. As long as you got a little small tip, you'll be good. And then go back and forth. Maybe I'll add another one right over here. Small at the top. Wider and wider as you go down. Even let some of them overlap. There we go, but that's probably enough for those far off trees. I just want to clean up those ones in the center. Give them a little extra pizzazz. Because we're going to be covering up a lot of the side with some big old trees here. Going back to my big brush. We gotta make sure these are dark. These have to be nice dark trees. So I'm gonna be using blue and green. No white this time. Blue and green. Now these ones are going to be in the middle ground. So there's still a little mist. We're gonna get a nice big dark one later. We'll get a little crazy later, but this is just blue and green for our middle ground. I'm gonna add a couple right over here. So these aren't gonna be the biggest trees, but they're gonna go right through all this. Start with a vertical brush, a nice thin line. Then you're gonna hold your brush horizontally or sideways, give it an angle. Use just the corner of your brush. You got two corners on your brush there, use just one of them. Tapping back and forth, like a zigzag or like a lightning bolt. And you'll notice here the blue, it blends a little bit with the background, but don't worry because we're going to get some snow going on. It's going to pop everything out. And again, if it picks up some of your snow down here, that's also totally fine. In fact, I'll bring some of that snow back up in there. There we go. There we go. See how poking the brush gives you that texture? That's the texture we're looking for. That fluffy texture. I'm actually poking, dabbing, or stabbing my brush up there. I'm going to give him a little friend. Make him a little shorter. There we go. Maybe I'll use a little more blue this time. Tapping back and forth. And trees don't have manners. They get all up in each other's business. So if your tree overlaps onto your other tree, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Then if you want to be extra spicy, touch, pull up, touch, pull up. Oop, uh-oh. Get yourself a little grass in there if you're not careful. There we go. Just a little grass. Then I'll wash out my brush. Then I'm going to come back and add a little snow right on top of that. Dry them off. White paint, nothing else. Now we're going to do the same thing that we just did to create these trees by tapping the brush, going back and forth, but this time leave the bottom of the branches blank. Because if you just cover the whole tree with white, you might as well just paint a white tree. Same way that we gave our mountain a highlight, boom, pops it right out. Same thing on a tree. Without darkness, there is no light. Pop that snow on the top of the tree branches. Poke it in on the top of the branch. Leaving those gaps in between the branches. Those are our shadows. Those are very important. Without that, everything becomes two-dimensional. It all becomes flat. There we go. Popping that white right on the top edge. Just the top, just the top. And you can use your little brush for these steps if you need to. I like to use the big one. I like to. One day I'll use my 2-inch brush. But not yet, not yet. Once you get the snow on the tops of the branches, you can add a little right over the feet here. Cleaning up those little drifts. There we go, and now they're pretty well set in there. There we go. All right. Just blend it out. Always paint with the flow of your landscape. Always, always. Then I'm going to add a huge tree. Strap in. Huge tree on the right side. This will be our big boy. It'll be the Big Daddy tree. This will be our Big Daddy tree. Black paint. Ooh, careful with that. And some blue. I'll mix some blue in there. The last of our blue. Might have to get more, we'll find out. You'll see there I'm making a real mess on my palette. I make a real mess. Everything ends up everywhere. Black and blue. Black and blue. Start off with the trunk. This is a big boy. Starting all the way up here. Never get anywhere if you don't get brave sometime. Boom, right there, right across everything. Right across all that stuff we worked so hard on. There we go. Gotta get crazy every now and then. And then you're gonna hold your brush horizontally or sideways, tapping, poking, dabbing, stabbing. Keep that top of that tree nice and sharp. Barely touch at the top, then press down harder and harder as you go down, back and forth, tapping that brush. You can see my easel shaking around there as I tap. If you're like me and you still got some wet paint in the background, it'll be okay. Nothing in nature is perfect, so everything gets a little messy. So if you pick up a little white like I am, just get a little extra black paint and manage it out, because we were going to add white on there anyway. Nothing wrong with a little gray. Nothing wrong with a little gray. Using more and more of my brush as I go down. Ooh, that's a big boy. Ooh. He's big. There we go. All right. That's what I was looking for. Bring them all the way down. There we go. There we go. That's pretty much what we're looking for on that side. All right. Now to give ourselves a little variation, I'm going to leave that alone for a second. I'm going to let him dry off a little bit. We'll come back to him. We'll come back and add that snow on there like you know we will. Like you know we will. But now, find that little brush again. We're going to add a hardwood tree. Hardwood trees lose their leaves in the winter, so to show this is winter for sure, we're going to add a dead tree. Well, a tree without any limbs on it. Right over here with our little 12 flat. Just black paint. Just black paint. And this guy, he'll be a little shorter. He won't be quite as big. But he's going to overlap right through all this. We're overlapping all these things. We're creating all these layers to really create depth in our paintings. That's how it makes it look like you can just walk right in there. You can walk right in there. Again, that black paint, use the thin edge of your brush, and it'll probably be right around here. I'm going to start at the tip of the tree, pull my way down. As you pull through, press down harder and harder with your brush so the bottom is the thickest area once again. That trunk, you want that trunk to be the thickest part. If your hand is shaking around a little bit, that'll help you out. You want some wibble wobbles in your trees here. My hand always shakes when I paint. You want some wibble wobbles in your trees. No tree is perfectly straight. Let it get wide at the bottom, small at the top. Then as you add more branches, think about the letter Y. Everything splits off like a Y here. So let it split off like a Y. I always start at the tip of my branch. As I add another branch, let it flow right into that main trunk. See there? Just like a letter Y. And then add some more. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That guy's a little crooked. Let a couple be a little crooked. Maybe one comes all the way across here. Oh yeah. Oh. Oh. Oh, that branch has seen some things. Mm-hmm. There we go. There we go. Just get yourself a little tree over there using that thin edge of the brush. See how every time I add a branch, it splits off like a wire, like a V there. There we go. Oh yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And then maybe there's a couple small ones. Gosh, I'm going off the rails now. I'm going off the rails. You can't be stopped. You can't be stopped. Boy, I'll be painting all day if I keep going like this. Wouldn't that be terrible? Wouldn't that be terrible? Getting nothing else done. There we go. Just a couple little sprouts. Why not? Why not? Here, there's another one going off over there. Maybe. Uh-oh. There's some over here. Whatever these are just popping up everywhere. They're just growing everywhere. They're just growing. The winter can't stop them. They'll be back. They'll be back in the spring. Full force, full force. There we go. Adding twigs and stuff like that gives you extra different texture in your painting. Gives you different textures. And that's always helpful. Time for the snow. Back to big boy. Your big old boy brush. That's our 1-inch flat white paint. Just add that white to the top part of your fir tree branches. Tap it on there. Oh yeah. That is just the icing on the cake right there. That's the icing on the cake. It just pops it right out. Pops it right out there. Again, you can be a little messy. If it's too perfect, then it won't look like nature. Nothing in nature is perfect. Nothing in nature is perfect. Everything's a little messy out there. Go outside, there's sticks, rocks, trees, bugs, mud, poop. It's true. It's just the facts. I didn't make up the facts. It's just the facts right there. It's messy out there. So if you're going to paint nature, you got to be a little messy. You got to be a little messy. And I like to toss a little snow right over the feet of this tree over here. There we go. And you can even, if you want to, now you can use the little brush for this. I'm feeling a little reckless at this point. I feel a little reckless. Make sure you don't have too much paint on your brush. So I'm just wiping it off. I do that sometimes. I just wipe paint off to make sure you don't have too much on there. Use the little brush or the big brush for this. I just have my big brush dirty already. Touch the side of this tree here and pull in. Touch, pull in. Touch, pull in. Touch. Oh, look at that. Get a little highlight. Only do that to the trunk. All those tiny little twigs will drive you crazy if you try to highlight all of them. There we go. There we go. And get that little bit of snow, last bit of snow that our tree's sitting on over here. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Just making sure I have as much snow as I want on there. Now there's one last little thing I want to do. And that's because likely, in a painting like this, our water is a little bit frozen. Might be a little frozen. So we might add a couple little shines on that water. Now really, you can do this with anything. You can do it with our palette knife. You could do it with little brush, big brush. I'm going to use a little brush. And just white. And I'm just going to add a few little streaks there. Just frost it. Just to remind people Hey, this is water. Stuff like that helps people. Helps people remember that it's water. There we go. And that's pretty much what you're looking for there. I hope you enjoyed taking a trip to the snowy Alaskan Tetons. Is that what they're called? The Tetons up there? Or the Rocky Mountains, maybe. Could be any of them. Could be whatever mountain you want it to be. But I hope you enjoyed our wonderful winter painting today. Happy painting, and God bless. Art. Art.